Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, teachers, and my dear friends. I hope you're all doing well. Today, I am going to tell you the story of one of the most famous ships in history, the Titanic. Even though more than 100 years have passed since the tragedy, people around the world still remember it. The story of the Titanic is not just about a ship sinking. It is a story of human ambition, hope, courage, love, sacrifice, and the importance of learning from our mistakes. So, let's travel back in time to discover the incredible story of the Titanic. The dream of building the Titanic. In the early 1900s, the world was changing very quickly. New inventions and technology were making life easier, and countries wanted to show how powerful they were. A British shipping company called the White Star Line decided to build the largest and most luxurious passenger ship ever made. They wanted to create a ship that would amaze the world with its beauty, comfort, and size. The ship was built in Belfast, Northern Ireland, by thousands of workers. Construction began in 1909 and took about 3 years. It was one of the greatest engineering achievements of its time. The Titanic was about 269 meters long, over 53 meters high, and weighed more than 46,000 tons. It had 4 large funnels, beautiful staircases, elegant dining rooms, swimming pools, libraries, and even a gymnasium. For many people, it looked like a floating palace. Why was the Titanic so special? The Titanic was considered the safest ship ever built. It had 16 watertight compartments that were designed to stop water from spreading if part of the ship was damaged. Many newspapers even described the Titanic as practically unsinkable. Because of this confidence, many people believed nothing could ever happen to the ship. However, history would soon prove that no machine is stronger than nature. The passengers. The Titanic carried around 2,200 people, including passengers and crew members. The passengers came from many different countries and backgrounds. Some were wealthy businessmen and famous people traveling in luxury. First-class passengers enjoyed expensive meals, beautiful rooms, and excellent service. Second-class passengers included teachers, travelers, and middle-class families. Third-class passengers were mostly immigrants who dreamed of starting new lives in America. They had left their homes with hope, believing they would find better opportunities. Although everyone traveled on the same ship, their lives were very different depending on their class. The first voyage. The Titanic began its first journey, also called its maiden voyage, on April 10, 1912. It had left Southampton, England, stopped in Cherbourg, France, and then in Queenstown, Ireland, before heading across the Atlantic Ocean to New York City. Thousands of people gathered to watch the magnificent ship leave the harbor. Everyone believed they were witnessing history. Passengers were excited and happy. The weather was calm and the sea was peaceful. Everything seemed perfect. Warnings about icebergs. As the Titanic sailed across the North Atlantic Ocean, other ships sent several wireless messages warning about dangerous icebergs ahead. These warnings reached the Titanic, but the ship continued traveling at nearly full speed. Many people later questioned this decision. The night of April 14, 1912, was especially dangerous because the sea was calm and the moon was not very bright, making icebergs difficult to see. The collision. At about 17:40 p.m., 2 crew members spotted a huge iceberg directly ahead. They immediately rang the warning bell and informed the bridge. The officers quickly ordered the ship to turn and stop its engines. Unfortunately, the iceberg was too close. The Titanic struck the iceberg on its right side. The collision did not seem very serious at first. Many passengers barely noticed it. However, below the surface, the iceberg had torn open several sections of the ship's hull. Water began rushing into the watertight compartments. Soon, the ship's designer realized that the damage was too great. The Titanic was going to sink. Panic on the ship. The crew started preparing the lifeboats. Sadly, the Titanic did not have enough lifeboats for everyone on board because people believed the ship was almost impossible to sink. Women and children were given priority. Some passengers refused to enter the lifeboats because they did not believe the ship was in real danger. Others desperately searched for their families. The musicians continued playing music to help keep people calm during the terrifying moments. Their bravery has become one of the most remembered parts of the Titanic story. The final moments. As more water entered the ship, the front slowly sank into the ocean. People in lifeboats watched helplessly as the enormous ship tilted higher and higher. Around 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the Titanic finally broke apart and disappeared beneath the icy Atlantic Ocean. The freezing water was so cold that many people could survive only a short time. It was one of the greatest maritime disasters in history. More than 1,500 people lost their lives. Around 700 people survived. The rescue. The rescue ship Carpathia received the Titanic's distress signals and rushed to help. Unfortunately, it arrived after the Titanic had already sunk. The Carpathia rescued the survivors from the lifeboats and brought them safely to New York. People around the world were shocked by the disaster. Newspapers reported the tragedy on their front pages, and millions of people mourned the victims. Why did the Titanic sink? Many experts have studied the disaster. Several reasons contributed to the sinking. First, the ship was traveling too fast in an area known to have icebergs. Second, there were not enough lifeboats for everyone. Third, many iceberg warnings were not treated with enough urgency. Finally, no one believed such a modern ship could sink. The tragedy showed that overconfidence can lead to disaster. Lessons we learned. The Titanic disaster changed the world. After the tragedy, international safety rules became much stricter. Ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for every passenger. Better communication systems were introduced. Countries also created the International Ice Patrol to watch for dangerous icebergs in the North Atlantic Ocean. These improvements have helped make sea travel much safer. The Titanic today. For many years, nobody knew exactly where the Titanic had sunk. In 1985, explorers finally discovered the wreck deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. The ship lies about 3,800 meters below the surface. Scientists continue to study the wreck to learn more about the disaster and to preserve its history. Many museums around the world display objects recovered from the Titanic, allowing people to remember those who lost their lives. Why does the Titanic still fascinate us? More than 100 years later, people still read books, watch documentaries, and enjoy movies about the Titanic. The story reminds us that wealth and technology cannot control nature. It teaches us about bravery, kindness, sacrifice, and hope during difficult times. Many ordinary people became heroes by helping others before thinking about themselves. That is one reason why the Titanic continues to inspire people today. As we come to the end of this presentation, we can see that the Titanic was much more than a beautiful ship. It represented human dreams, confidence, and technological progress. But it also reminded us that even the greatest achievements must be matched with wisdom, careful planning, and respect for nature. The Titanic story is a lesson that we should never become too proud or ignore warnings. Instead, we should learn from history so that similar tragedies can be prevented in the future.